The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Everybody has their own story and their own journey to share. Every journey conceals another journey within its lines, the path not taken and the forgotten angle. The journey within you, where you will listen to stories from others sharing their triumphs and struggles that led them to where they are today. Welcome to The Journey Within You. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Sister Mary McGehee. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. And I got the privilege of meeting her last month. I was asked to drive by a mutual friend of ours, Tamara. She asked me to drive the bus for the First Baptist ladies for their retreat at the Benediction Center. And I was like, sure, I'd love to be a part of that. And it was a very impactful weekend. I was blessed to hear you teach us on the welcoming prayer. I believe that was the one that you talked with us about. And
Yes.
and just learning a new way of prayer. And I'm a praying woman, and I love to pray. So that was very touching to me as we got started that weekend. But Mary, I there's so many things about you that I want to hear about, and I know we can't cover everything, but I would love for you just to start with us. Where you started from and how it got you to where you are today.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
I'm so thrilled to have you here.
I was born in St. Louis, Missouri in the 1940s. I'll just tell you now, I enjoyed celebrating my 80th birthday this Halloween.
Oh, happy birthday, October.
When I was 9, we moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and went through elementary school there. I had 2 years of high school at Tuscaloosa High and then came to Sacred Heart Academy. Mm-hmm. In those days, the Benedictine sisters ran a high school and a 2-year college, a girls' school.
Oh.
Both of them were girls' school. Across the creek was St. Bernard Abbey, and they had the boys' school. Mm-hmm. But from the time I was a tiny child, I always had a strong sense of the presence of God. Mm-hmm. And what did that mean to me? It meant I knew I was loved, that life was good, I had fun. I know I fell down all the time and had red knees.
Because you were having a lot of fun outside, yeah.
But I just got up, sat there blowing the
yep, get up and do it again.
The bugs off my knees.
Kept going. Yeah.
So life was good. I enjoyed going to church. I don't know that I was overly pious. Would sneak sometimes into the church just by myself, just because I like to be in the quiet a little bit. Mm. But when we moved to the South, I think we were only maybe 1.5% Catholic in the area. Yeah. So I didn't have any Catholic playmates in my area. And I went to the Catholic school, which was a few miles away. So that was a kind of a lonesome time in my life. Mm. But the sense of the presence of God. I had a brother, John, who was 3 years older. Mm-hmm. He and I were best playmates. Mm-hmm. John was mildly retarded in that he had an accident at his birth. Oh. Now, I didn't know that at all. I mean, he was very full of life, always had new ideas and things to do, such as we had a sandbox in the backyard in St. Louis, mm-hmm. and he figured out if he could burn some sticks, some boards going up, he could get some orange crates from the grocery store and take the slats off the orange crates and nail it up and make a clubhouse mm-hmm. on the sandbox. Now, I got involved in it because I could ask the grocer, could we have the orange crates?
Oh,
a girl would get
and they would get them.
And then I had to sit on top of it coming down in the wagon.
Oh, to hold them down.
Fall off the wagon.
I love it. I can see that going down the road now.
We had a great time. When I was 8, my younger sister Rose was born. Oh. And I liked being mommy, and doing things with her. Mm-hmm. So then at 9, we moved to Tuscaloosa. A bit of a lonesome time then, but all through all of my childhood, I always had this strong sense of the presence of God, and somehow knew my life was for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, not many sisters will tell you that kind of story.
Right. That they
I
felt
mean,
it so
usually,
early on.
yeah, usually they went through different kinds of struggles trying to figure out is this what they should do or not.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, ta-da!
There you are. Yeah. Yeah. That's very unique that it did start such at an early age. And what about, did you ever share that with your brother and sister of you
I
feeling that?
didn't. I did not.
Yeah.
I think I thought it was a little too pious.
Mm.
They've been trying to act pious, um, and it was just a knowing. Um, just trying to think. There in Tuscaloosa, I went 2 years to Tuscaloosa High, and then came to Sacred Heart Monastery for 2 years of high school.
Right.
And my senior class, half the class had decided they were going to be nuns. Now, in my mind, and I'm an introvert, so I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't really talked about it. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't talking about it with those girls, but in my mind, I would go to college and then I'd become a nun.
You'd wait. Yeah.
Both of my parents were college graduates, and they kind of instilled that was an important thing in our life. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but then half the class decided they were going to be nuns. Of course, they didn't do that.
Right. Right. After they figured it out, that it means a lot
Then it made
more.
me go to talk to the novice director and, my thoughts, and
Mm-hmm.
she was very encouraging. And I think there were 4 of us that actually did enter that summer, and the others left fairly shortly,
Right.
but
And how
I
old were you at this
stayed.
time?
I was 17.
17.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so what's the process once you start? You said you went that summer. So what is the process of that as you go along?
So have, we have the first year, somebody's here, we call them a postulate, and they're basically just a live in.
Mm-hmm.
You do all the things with the sisters, live among the sisters, but you don't have any, you haven't signed it up.
Right.
You're just a
Right.
visitor.
Like an intern.
So, yeah, you get to see whether you like it, and they get to see whether they think you can fit.
Right.
And then after that year, you enter the novitiate, and the novitiate is 1 full year of retreat.
Mm.
You're not doing a ministry, you're not going out with friends. You're basically there at the monastery living a rather cloistered life
Mm.
of prayer and discernment.
Mm-hmm.
And I just sailed through all that. And then uh, we have a period of being in what we call first vows that is a 5 year period.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And in that phase, we actually did. I was as a postulant. I started college. Not as a novice. I had courses. They were college credited by the sisters because we ran the college,
Okay.
but they were theology type courses.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then I went to school another year before I started teaching.
Mm.
And for 7 years, in those days, the monastery had a commitment. I think there was the bishop in the area had tried to say every Catholic church needs to have a Catholic school.
Yeah.
All these children need to be in Catholic schools. So these little tiny parishes would have a little tiny school, usually 4 rooms. So each nun had two grades in a room.
Okay. Wow.
So
That's a lot, really. I mean, age difference and trying to
yes, I didn't know what I was doing, but I,
you, you
knew it
did.
was important. So
Yes. So what age did you
I was
have?
smart enough. I started out with 5th and 6th grade,
Oh,
and that's
impactful years.
yeah, that's a nice grade to teach.
Mm-hmm.
Though it was a group of kids, the boys prided themselves. Every teacher they ever had told them they were the worst class the school had ever had.
Oh no. That's not
They
good.
weren't bad, but they were naughty.
Yes, yes,
They
rambunctious
weren't
young
bad.
men. Now, these children
Kids.
attending, the school eventually may take the same path, or that just gave them the opportunity to learn more about it?
Well, they were usually Catholics from uh, that parish
Uh-huh.
that we were teaching.
Okay.
So we weren't teaching them to become nuns or priests or anything. It was just
Teaching school.
trying to get everybody to live a good Christian life,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Mm-hmm. And how long did
And
you
I
do
think
the teaching?
I did it 7 years, and each
Oh.
year I was in a different school, a different grade
Oh
level.
my goodness. So you learned
We,
a lot.
yeah, we in those days, it's like the monastery promised so many different schools that they would supply the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So then it depended on what was happening to the life the Mother Superior would assign you in
Mm.
the summertime where you're going that fall.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you had to prepare like right away.
Yeah.
Mm.
After that, I decided to, instead of, I really wanted to do theology. I mean, that was the
Mm.
area I cared about. And so I thought if I do a ministry in that, so I became a religious ed director.
Oh.
And the parishes here in Alabama didn't have that, but Atlanta did.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked in Atlanta for 2 years.
And what exactly does
And
that mean?
a director of religious education would be the kids are not in Catholic schools or
Okay.
going to any school,
Okay.
but the parish supplies some kind of religious ed. It usually meant Sunday school,
Okay.
or sometimes you had classes in the evening.
Okay.
Different
Mm-hmm.
different churches did it different ways.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
So you did that for a couple of
But
years.
yeah, say again.
You did that for a couple of years.
Yeah, just 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
While I was doing all of that, I mean, it was a lot of work. Um, I was going by the time we started teaching, we were not finished with college. So then, as soon as school was over, we were sent to summer school.
Mm. Fun.
So it was like 24/7,
Yeah.
you know, all 12 months of the year.
Oh.
And my heart just longed for a more contemplative path. So I think that my superiors didn't quite know what to do with this kid.
You were wanting to do different.
Yeah. But we had a retreat with Brother David Steinelrest, who's an interesting fella, Austrian by birth.
Mm-hmm.
And Brother David was helping communities of sisters in the U.S. set up houses of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And he came and gave our annual community retreat, like a week one summer.
Mm-hmm.
And while he was here, we talked to him about what would a house of prayer look like. So he set up, we did one for like a month that summer, later in the summer.
Oh wow.
And then coming out of that, I think we used a building that had 11 bedrooms, so there were 11 of us. The the former superior who had just gotten out of office,
Mm-hmm.
the former novice director,
Oh
they were in the house, and all the rest of us were under 30.
wow.
We were all, new brats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But we came through that and said, shouldn't be just a month in the summer. This should be how we live,
Mm.
that we can live in a different kind of rhythm that's it's not so work oriented, so work driven.
Right.
So I decided what I needed was some more background in theology for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the other rest of the group, they met every like once a month, still talking about how to do this. And I went to college in Minnesota, got a master's in theology.
Oh wow. Now how long did that take you?
That was to, and I already had several summers
Mm-hmm.
of graduate work. So I was there at St. John's for a whole year.
Okay.
And then when I got back, the group decided, okay, yes, let's do this. Let's try a house of prayer. So the house of prayer was that 6 of us signed up to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved to a regular house on a street in Birmingham. and got ordinary jobs in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I did typing at a racket club. Um, one of the sisters pumped gas at her dad's golf station.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
A couple of them taught, but taught half time.
Hmm.
Had half-time jobs so that we had lengthy time during every day to sit with the scripture, to pray,
Mm-hmm.
to read the spiritual masters, and it was life changing for me, and I think for the others too.
Mm.
And we had said in our documents, the essence of our life was our daily prayer alone and together, living a community life of supporting one another, and third, some kind of ministry that could flow out of the prayer in the community.
That's
And what we
beautiful.
found missing was the prayer in the community piece. We wanted more time for those two elements.
Mm-hmm.
So we were very intentional, and that model just lasted for 2 years. And the different people in the group went different directions.
Right.
You know,
They grew.
for myself, I just felt compelled that there was still, I
Something
still
more.
had,
Yeah.
yes, I still needed something. So
Mm.
uh, we had a sister who'd been visiting here for a whole year on her own sabbatical, just being in our house. But she was from Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me about a house of prayer that was up there that maybe I could join, you know. And so I went up to it was called Still Point House of Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I was there. And then I thought, I have a year off to do this. I don't need to spend the whole time here. As I was at the House of Prayer, I was meeting other people who were trying various explorations in this area. So I traveled a little bit in the Northeast, just visiting one
Mm-hmm.
place or another,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out how to do this. So I'm still on this serious, contemplative search.
Mm-hmm.
My folks were by that time were living in Virginia, the D.C. area,
Oh yeah.
and I was stopped on my way back. I'm on a bus.
Oh,
I
fun. Oh.
stopped there, and I got a phone call that said, "We've decided to sponsor some of the Asian refugees coming out of Vietnam, and since you don't have anything to do, you can take care of them."
Oh.
And I'm like, "What?
Okay.
What?
And how am I
What
supposed
are
to
you
do
talking
this?
about?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
What do you think I've been doing for these years?"
Oh wow.
And I got back to Coleman, and this extended family of 13 people arrived, and my life was changed.
Mm.
Um, Within the first month, the local KKK came after them with bomb threats in the middle of the night
Mm.
and
Awful.
personal death threats to the head of the household.
Right. Yeah. Oh goodness.
Um,
And where was the house?
that
Where was it at?
well, first, our college had just closed. We
Mm-hmm.
had a joint college with St. Bernard by that point,
Right.
and there were empty faculty houses on the front of St. Bernard's property.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we asked about using one of those houses. So when the Klan made this threat in the middle of the night, we ran over there and got him out of the house in the middle of the night.
Mm.
We brought him back to our monastery, and we'd had a house behind our big buildings.
Right.
So we moved the family into that.
Mm. How scary.
And yeah, it was.
Mm.
I'm not sure that all the kids realized what all was happening. The family was an old couple, their oldest son, wife, and 5 children, and the 4 youngest daughters in the family who
Wow.
were not married. They were like teenagers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm.
Well, as everybody was there on our campus, and I'm working with them in different ways, I realized there was a struggle that had gone on between the oldest son's wife and his 4 youngest sisters.
Mm.
And I thought, we don't need to keep them all in one house.
Right.
So we moved the four girls up to the floor where I lived. There were three of us living on that floor,
Mm-hmm.
and we had our own little home. Sister Monica was great grandma. Sister
Oh,
Morris was grandma, and I was mom.
aw. And they had it all
And,
set.
and Morris had been my novice director. She called them the Little Women,
Little Women.
and so they were just they would two of them went to school, and two of them we found jobs for.
Mm-hmm.
They were beginning their life. They would eat with the sisters, and it's probably some of the most rewarding work in my whole life.
It
And
has
I
to
would
be.
say, why was that? Because it was developing the maternal in me,
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
and just lovely, lovely young women. They're still my girls.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. They'll
What is this,
always be. You
50
impacted their
years later?
lives. Yeah. You impacted their lives big time. I mean, that's something they'll never forget. Yeah.
Yes, yes, me,
And
me neither.
yeah, are they still in the area then, or they've gone their ways or?
No, after everybody lived here 2 years, and then the oldest son, the head of the household, decided he wanted to go to California.
Mm.
That they had a lot of relatives that had settled in
Mm-hmm.
California,
Mm-hmm.
and the girls said, "No, we're not going with you." And uh, some of the sisters were helping them relocate to Birmingham,
Mm-hmm.
and so the parents said, "Well, we're not leaving our girls."
Oh dear. So not
So
going to California.
the old couple and the four girls moved to a house in Birmingham, and in time, watched three out of the four have arranged marriages.
Wow.
One
That's so weird, isn't it? I mean,
visited, well, yeah, I visited one day, and they were. Uh, Let me see how this goes. The oldest one was named Bowie. The
mm-hmm.
second one was mildly retarded,
Mm-hmm.
Han, and then the two younger ones were the ones two in school, in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I visited one time, and they told me that the one that was mildly retarded was getting married.
Oh,
And I said, "Now what?"
yeah.
She's getting married. And I said, "Who is she marrying?" Well, this fella had come up from New Orleans, and he took her out one weekend. He drove up. The only day he had off was Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
He drove up. He looked her over, took her out to lunch, drove back home, and then called and said, "Yes, that's the one I want."
Mm.
And he was coming back a month later,
To
and they
marry.
were to be married. And
Mm.
I was hysterical.
Yeah.
And they all looked at me so puzzled. Don't worry, Sister Mary. We know his family. The family was in Vietnam in the same place where we lived. We know he's okay.
Mm.
We know the Chinese astrology is just right. Our sister who does that assured us. She went and looked at the sun
Oh,
and the moon and the stars, and I'm being
mm.
hysterical still.
I
I said,
bet.
you're sending Han to New Orleans, and what family does he have here?" "Well, he has his brother." "You're sending Han with two guys?
Mm.
How is she going to know anything to do?"
Right.
It went
Right.
on and on.
Yeah. I would have been such a mess, worried.
Well, off she went. The guy
Mm-mm.
arrived. I was there for the wedding.
Mm.
Um, so
That
it
had
was,
Yeah, that had to be
but
really strange too, and scary for you to think, here she goes, what's going to happen to her now?
yes. And I have to say, she's had a wonderful marriage. She has five children who are all grown, of course.
Right.
They have children. I mean, it's been a wonderful family.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's reassuring
Yes,
that it
yes. I
did
mean,
take like it was supposed to.
uh-huh. None of her family lived anywhere near New Orleans.
Hmm.
As each girl married with arranged marriages, one moved to Minneapolis, one to Houston, on in New Orleans, and the youngest daughter, Ming, never married.
Hmm.
She she was burned as a child in an accident
Mm-hmm.
one evening.
Mm-hmm.
She was with her mother at the next door neighbors, and the neighbors. lantern was her kerosene lantern was going out, and the
Oh,
woman
no.
had this child hold the lantern as she poured oil in
Oh,
it,
goodness. No. Mm,
and the oil caught fire and the woman threw it and went down her whole body.
mm. That had to
The
be
part
painful.
that you could see easily was her mouth and her chin.
Right.
I mean, she was marked there. The rest of her body healed up okay.
Mm,
But there, so she always hung her head down. And I think I knew them maybe 10 years because the family never treated her any differently. But I think I knew her 10 years before I realized she would never, ever marry.
yeah.
She was outcast by Chinese culture.
That's sad.
I don't think the family felt that way toward her,
Right.
but
Right.
but
But their
she knew it
culture.
because that's how everybody treated her
Mm-hmm.
in the culture, not her own
Mm-hmm.
family.
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's sad. And is she still in the
So,
area, or did you say
well, she's the only one that worked her way through college, became a programmer,
Mm-hmm.
and has earned her living, been independent all these years since. They just had, she eventually moved out to California and bought her own home
Oh, that's
and took
great.
care of her parents.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to be the one to remember the parents had lived with them, and
Mm-hmm.
but the parents wanted to be in California, so she decided to go to California, bought a home, and took care of them till they died.
That's
And
precious.
she recently, it's her home that's kind of the family gathering spot.
Yeah, I
They
bet
had a big
so.
family reunion. Hmm.
Oh. And so then what came next after all that?
Okay, well, the experience with the KKK was a major turning point because it made me, for the first time, sit down, go to some civil rights meetings
Mm-hmm.
to understand racism
Mm.
and what is this with the KKK.
You're right,
I,
right,
I hadn't ever really explored that area. I'd lived a very white life.
right, right. I mean, you
And
don't think, what do I need
I'm,
to know about that, you know?
and I'm talking for the first time to African Americans, and you really want to know? We'll tell you. Yes,
Yeah,
I want to know.
yeah.
It totally opened my eyes to things directions I would never have thought of,
Mm,
and beginning the whole process and identifying the need not just for charity within churches, but for social justice,
right.
to look at what are the cause of things that are going on that are not right in our society.
Mm,
How do you unpack that, and how do you
how
begin change?
changing it. Yeah.
And so I became within a few years, the director of the Peace and Justice Office in diocese. Now, I would never, in my wildest imagination, have dreamed that I'd be going in that direction. I'm a contemplative,
Yeah, exactly.
but I mean, it was the hand of God doing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was thrilling in my own life to meet so many different people, um, to hear stories, to walk some of the journey with folks,
Mm,
and share my own space and my own life.
mm-hmm.
Um, I was director of the peace. I think I worked in the peace and justice area for about 10 years.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yes. And that came to a screeching halt with the first Gulf War because the bishop was yelling and screaming, "We need to go kill those bad guys."
Uh,
And I'm like, I can't not be
mm-mm,
your representative here.
mm-mm.
So I knew it was time for
To
me
pull
to move
back.
out of that.
Yeah.
So I returned to the monastery. I'd been working in Birmingham and beyond,
Mm-hmm.
but I returned to the monastery in Coleman, and there, that was right at the time the college had closed. We had turned some of our buildings into a retreat center. So I began working more and more in that area,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much have done that ever since.
Mm.
I would say one change that happened in '92, I found out I had breast cancer,
Oh, goodness.
and I was 50 years old. Had used my 50th birthday, realizing 50 is a jubilee year in
Right.
the scripture.
Right.
So I decided this is jubilee time. What do I need to? I gave myself a nice long retreat and looked at my life and thought, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
if there's an area I needed to improve on, it's some of my attitudes, uh, uh, but started in a different way on the inner journey.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was doing that, I was at a retreat center, and the nun that was running it told me she was going to go and have physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
That the two physical therapists did all kinds of unusual things. She had been in an auto accident and had hurt her sternum
Mm-hmm.
for the wheel of the car, so she was going for that purpose. And I thought I knew I had a lump in my breast. I had been to the doctor who didn't do anything and just said, "Oh, I'm sure it's a cyst."
Right.
So I thought, well, maybe they know something about that. So I go to these physical therapists. They say, our understanding is whatever's going on in your body is 1% physical, 9% mental, and 90% spiritual.
Hmm.
And I went, okay.
Okay. That's a new one to me.
Our belief is that a cyst is walled off waste matter.
Mm-hmm.
So my mind is going, walled off waste matter. Okay, what is the waste here?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a negative kind of attitude that I lived with.
Right.
That's definitely wasteful. That's
Definitely
definitely
wasteful. Oh, awful.
negative. And let's see if we can unpack this.
Mm-hmm.
So it began that kind of a journey. And when they said it was cancerous, I thought, indeed, this is cancerous.
Mm.
This is cancerous thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But by identifying it and starting that whole journey, it became a gift
Mm.
in shifting me. I don't will breast cancer or any kind of cancer on anybody, and I don't think
No.
my story is necessarily other people's story.
Right. Right.
This is just what
How
I
it
knew.
impacted you.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
once in a once in a while, when I've told that part of the story, people start worrying. Well, is that why I had cancer? I'm
Mm.
like, no,
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 no, don't
no.
think that.
No, no. That's how you
We all.
went through it and realized what it was
Hmm.
meant for you.
Hmm.
And
So, friends were offering me all different kind of alternative healing.
mm,
I had been working in our retreat center, and I had loved yoga and was teaching yoga, and so it tended to be people that were involved in yoga and thinking of body, mind, spirit
mm-hmm.
thinking
Mm-hmm.
offered me various kinds of things to be helpful. And I came through that thinking, I think maybe I should be offering that. And
Mm,
one of the that's was massage.
mm,
So I became a massage therapist and learned also energy work under the title Healing Touch,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
holistic holistic nurses association in the area brought a healing touch workshop here, and I thought, this is, hey, this is interesting, this is good.
Right.
So for 30 years,
Really?
I re- I retired from that in 2019.
Oh, wow. So you just have come off from doing that.
Right, in
Hasn't been that
recent
long
years.
ago. Mm,
From doing all the body work.
mm-hmm.
But in what I wanted to do it, how I saw it, was because my own journey was kind of tied up in that, to use the modality to offer spiritual direction
Yeah.
with whatever somebody chose if they wanted it.
Right.
So
Right.
some people did and some people didn't.
Right.
But so often on the table, there was something revealed to that person.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were able to do
So, I
that
mean,
through your
yes,
walk
yes.
with
I mean, it was
Christ.
a gift to me.
Mm-hmm.
To me, a special part of the gift to me was so much of my work earlier was more administrative kind of work.
Right.
And in this work, I was just totally present to what this person is showing me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whether verbally or energy wise,
Right.
and just being present to that. And the more I could be centered and present, I just felt like so I can be whatever God wants to do for this person.
That's
Just
beautiful. That's beautiful.
may it happen. Yes, I
Yes.
thought let Mary get out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of times we put self in the way so many times in our life.
Well, we think we're going to do something.
Yeah,
we need
exactly.
we need to do, but it's I don't know. It just gave me a whole different way
Mm.
that seemed very helpful to many people.
And so you retired from that and you're doing what
So I
now?
retired from that, and then um, as I right as I'm retiring, COVID hit.
Mm, that was
So
fun.
I finished the massage in December 2019, and then da-da,
Yep. Yep. We all came
2020.
home.
Hmm.
Mm. So,
And we had an election of prioress, and the sister who'd been running our retreat center became the prioress, and she made me the director of the retreat center.
wow. Boom.
And
New job.
I said, look, I'll do this for 1 year, and then I'm out of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a big
1 year.
responsibility.
So I did that for a year. Now I'm happily removed. I still see people for spiritual direction,
Right.
and I still am able to do that and enjoy it. God has gifted me with a very good physical health.
Mm,
So at 80, I don't really feel that I'm that old.
right.
But I
You
remember,
don't look 80. I never would imagine that you were 80.
no, but I remember my mother when she was 80, she lived in our retirement home here,
Mm-hmm.
and I gave her a Jungian book titled Old Age.
Mm-hmm.
And she just thought, she looked at the title and she just laughed, and she showed all her friends, look at what Mary gave me. She thinks I'm old. She no more thought she was old at 80. And I
Now
understand that.
you know why, because you don't either. That's my father. He is 82 this year, and you would never know that he's 80. He's going to be 82. I mean, he's physical health, mental health is so on point, and his walk with Christ,
Yes.
and so he doesn't look it either.
Great.
So now
I
you're.
mean, it's wonderful. It's a
It
gift.
is a gift. It
Yeah.
is a gift. And now, like at the retreats and things, you do like you did with us. You come in and share a teaching, and so that's what you're doing now, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Seeing people individually or sometimes
Or in a
doing
group
group
time.
things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I
Hmm.
know I was blessed by it. I was glad I got to be there and was asked to take part in coming. And I'll be back next year. I won't keep coming. I told her, I said, yes, I'll
Okay.
just drive. I'll be there. I have no problem. It was a great weekend. Well, Mary, Sister Mary, I so
Uh-huh.
appreciate you coming on today and sharing your story. It was a beautiful story. And there was a lot of good times, a little bit of hard times, but God saw you through
Right.
each of those times because you
Hmm.
are dedicated to what He has called you to do. And again, I just thank you.
You're very welcome. I feel totally gifted by God in every way possible.
That's beautiful. Thank you for joining my podcast today. We all have a story to share. Each story has purpose and makes an impact to you, the listener, creating a journey with passion and purpose. The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Please share with others and subscribe below.